Run, party, repeat. Welcome to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert Podcast, where we talk all things running, racing, and training to help you get ready for your next big adventure.
Learn from our successes and our failures, and have fun at the same time. Join us right here every week with inspiring guests who share their captivating tales from the trails. And remember, nobody cares.
Run faster. All right. Welcome back to the Dirt and Vert Podcast. I'm David.
I'm Mike.
Mike is back with us, guys. It's been a little while.
It has been a while.
This is not Mini Matt. This is Mike. He's back to help us because Matt's at baseball games. Addie's in the All-Star League over there crushing it. But we have Jon Cox and Becca Jones with us today from BMFJ Events. And the notorious Mid-State Mile is going to be some of the discussion today. For you all that have not heard about this race, it's a 1 mile last standing race with almost 400 feet of elevation gain per loop. So it's a very interesting course and very creative. And there's a really cool story that goes along with how this whole race started, kind of the birth of it. And it happened during COVID, and we'll get into that later. But first and foremost, let's learn a little bit about our guests. So Jon and Becca. Jon, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got into running.
Hi, I'm Jon. I don't know. I live in Middle Tennessee, Nashville, with my wonderful, beautiful, amazing, the fabulous BMFJ here. I got into running, I think it was like 2014 is when I first started running. And there's a really popular zombie show on at the time. And I thought, these zombies don't really move that fast. You just walk or run a little bit faster, your chances of survival in a zombie apocalypse are going to exponentially increase the farther you can run. I took a look around, and I'd eaten way too many elephant ears. It's kind of fair. And so I needed to increase.
Are you vegan?
No.
I'm kidding.
To increase my level of fitness. And so I decided to run a marathon, and nobody I knew had ever ran a marathon. I thought that was the farthest, you could really run at that time because I wasn't in a community of runners. And I just decided, well, I can run a marathon. That's the thing. And so I picked a race in June 1st. And I started running in January and just kind of figured it out all on my own and ran a marathon and then ran a couple halves. And when I moved to Nashville in 2017, I think, I started running trails with the goal to run 100 miles. And I've been doing the same thing ever since, is trail running and trying to run 100 miles.
Did you enjoy the marathon at all, like when you were doing it?
I don't know that I ever let myself enjoy running. I enjoyed how far I could run, like in training. Like I enjoyed the ability, like, man, you can run 10 miles. Like that's really cool. I enjoyed. At that time, I lived in Indiana, so I would run like towns over. Like my parents lived an entire town over from me, so I would run there and then run back, or do these kind of long open road runs. And I enjoyed the ability to be able to do that. Like I can run 20 miles, I can run 15 miles, or whatever it was on the training plan that weekend. And so I really enjoyed that aspect. I don't know that I enjoyed running so much at that time. I don't know that I enjoy running so much now, quite frankly. I'm trying to figure out how to enjoy running. I think that'll be an important piece of the puzzle to running 100 miles again. And I'm trying to kind of reconstruct what running really is for me.
Oh, that's really good. I love the fact that you're trying to at least refine the passion or refine a love or joy for it. Because when you lose that, it really is hard to continue to do it.
Yeah, I feel like if we all do this long enough, we all lose it at some point. I feel like I have. I feel like 2 years ago, I could not find a groove anywhere.
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed the newness of running trails, but running is mostly been like negative consequence for me. Like this place of there is something about you that you need to change and you need to restructure. And it's not really punishment, but it's not an enjoyable, or hasn't been an enjoyable, enlightening exploration process of just being like thankful and enjoying being out in nature and movement. That's not essentially the place I started running from. It was a place of not really liking myself or who I am. And that route that I planted has just carried on for since. And so I'm trying to trying to dig that out and plant something different.
Man, that's really interesting to think about. I've never actually heard someone say it in that way, because most people have either had an addiction or they're running from something and they run as an outlet to try to just get the stress out. And you were running just trying to, you said zombie apocalypse, but you were just running to do it, kind of like you didn't really have a purpose of like mental health or an addiction that you were trying to overcome. It was more of like trying to find a reason to do it. Is that kind of how you started?
Yeah. I mean, a little bit. I had a good reason. I mean, to get healthier would probably be a key reason, like not happy with who I am, but it hasn't essentially gone away so much. And it's not, I don't have overcoming addiction. It's not therapy. I've got, mental health things that I deal with, but there's times where running just makes the mental health stuff a lot worse. It doesn't alleviate it. It's not a place of this is therapeutic and enlightening and making things better. There's definitely times it just makes it worse. And part of that is, I think, when you push yourself and you run long distances, especially when you don't achieve the things that you set out to, it can definitely make anything you're dealing with mental health wise a lot worse, especially if you're not framed in the right state of mind, or you're not doing it from a place that you're essentially just watering a bad plant.
Yeah. I mean, it's a valid point. It's one of those where you're already hard on yourself anyways. And if you're not performing to at least your expectations, it's not going to put you in a great spot to want to continue to run. So I totally understand where you're coming from there. But it's just really interesting because I've not really heard like that view. So thank you for sharing that, honestly, because that's, every runner has a story. It's always interesting to hear how everybody got started or why, and most people's is completely different. Some of them are addictions, some of them are divorces, some of them are, trying to find a community, just trying to find people to hang out with, trying to help mental health. So I love the fact of how everybody has their own little niche and own little groove. So I hope you do. I hope you do find your joy. And I know that 100 miler is a big bucket list, and you've already completed 100 miles though, right?
Yeah, he did.
I mean,
I've ran 100 miles. I ran 100 miles in the fall in our local park. Kind of did that on our own.
I was following along on this journey.
Yeah. I had a bad race. And then, before we left to come back to Nashville, I was like, I got to do this thing. And it's just, I think what keeps me going is I'm really committed to growth. It's who I am as an individual. I'm committed to growth myself and others. And so this process of running is very much a growth process for me. And so when I lose sight of my goals or get defeated, it's easy for me to reset and say this is still part of the growth. Like you're continuing to grow, and that's okay. And this is what you've committed yourself to. So just keep doing it.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Jon, just watching you, and I know you've struggled on some of the, we watch you, we know you and so forth like that through everything for the years, the 100-mile journey. And, I think we all inside of us feel like that's something we want to check off, and go from there. For some positive feedback, I'm sitting here like, man, this guy just keeps going after it over and over. I mean, you get the train to quit out of your life, speech and blah, blah, blah. And I love reading it. And I'm like, he's going back again. I mean, I'm just like, he's not, I don't care if we don't get that, you don't get that buckle. That's a you thing. But what you're showing other runners out there is like, hey, I failed, you know what, but I'm coming back, somehow, some way. And that's what you do. I mean, and I hope that young runners see that, because if you go out there and you think, hey, I'm going to do 100 miles just like everybody else, that's not how that's not how it works. You have to dig deeper than you've ever thought about. And man, for what it's worth, you keep coming back.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm going to. I've got, and that's was hard. It was hard about Farrell this spring to come back and sign up for another one, but that's just where we're at. And I'm going to keep coming back, and I'm going to keep. Gosh, it sounds weird to saying yes to myself, but that's where I have to be. I have to have that faith in myself, my ability, and keep giving myself that opportunity to run 100 miles.
Absolutely.
Relentless pursuit, baby.
Pretty much.
But I mean, you did come out here last year and rock the 70K and never even wavered at the Cherokee. Like you just did that thing like it was no problem.
Mike saved my bacon. If it wasn't for Mike, I would not have finished that race. And it was that spot where I was in my head, and it was so beautiful in the moment because Mike cared very much about who I was and me as an individual, but ignored that entirely and just cared about fixing the problem I was going through. Like Mike didn't want to listen to what I was feeling. He wanted to listen to what I felt physically and fix that. And he kept me going. And I really did. That was a great race. That's probably the best race I've ever had. I did that after a backpacking trip on the AT. I got off trail.
I remember
40 miles.
Drove straight to the race.
Yeah. And it was really fantastic. That was an awesome race. I regretfully won't be able to do it this year. All right,
well, back. We always have a spot for you too. So anytime.
You know, when I was listening to Becca and y'all's podcast earlier about why she's not necessarily run mid-state mile, but I think a lot of it is, you know, when you get feedback like that little bit inside of us, that's a race director's rush right there. That you just, man, there may be 150 runners out there, but I was able to help one person, just one, and you can walk away and be like, it was a great event. You know, don't care.
Well, and to be totally honest, we got plenty of the East Coast Adventures race directors. So we've all like shared and tried to run our own races. Guys, it doesn't work. By the time, even if everybody says, I'll help it, you don't have to do it. I mean, you're so tired race morning. I mean, you can't give your best. Like, it's not worth it unless you just want to do it to like experience it. But it's you
should at some point, because I think you would love the feedback on the course.
Yeah. Maybe we should like host an event like the Mid-State one year for you two, and like we can maybe let you all just run it, and we'll help do all the other stuff. But you know, Jon, I will say this though, like, and you know, this is just perception. Like, this is me, and I think it's probably most runners, but I think most of us aren't happy with our performances. We have a race on occasion that goes okay. But for me, like I got to this groove where I felt like I should podium things, and then I didn't podium things, and I was like unhappy about that, and I kind of burnt myself out. Just like, you know, Mike said, he burned himself out. I burnt myself out. I can't remember if it's like 22 or 23, but like I got really burnt out, and I didn't run for a while, and then I just had to remember that, like, you know, it's something that not everybody gets to do. So like, why am I not doing it? I have a gift to be able to run that far, but you know, there's still days and races where like, I'm not happy. And I'm sure Mike's had races where he's not happy. And that's the thing. It's like, we're all hard on ourselves so much on wanting to be better that you have to try to figure out, like you said, the thing you're trying to do now is how do you find joy? First thing you got to do is stop focusing on everything that you're doing wrong. I mean, honestly,
yeah,
you really do. You got to like get that out of your head. And I love Mike for that at Cherokee, that he didn't care about what was going on in your head. It was more like, well, it's hot out here. You know, what do you need?
He wasn't having it. And that's exactly what
Well, I just know I had, you know, and then you can't always do that for, you know, someone if you don't know them. But I was like, I know Jon can do this. I could see him. He didn't drive. It's in him. You know, we just need that. I don't know, that little, not kicking the butt sometimes. It's not the rough talk. It's the positive. Like, you have this, man. Don't quit believing in yourself.
Well, and he looked great.
Yes.
Coming through that finish line. I would have had no idea until he told me after the finish line that you had a pep talk with him. But I had no idea, because when he come through, he looked great. Yeah. I mean, those pictures, I mean, you look great coming through.
But when Mike saw me, I was in rough shape.
So before we move on to Becca, I want like just a couple of questions real quick. First one is, what race, or, you know, doesn't even have to be a race, but like what running distance or race or event or anything you've done, what are you most proud of so far in your running history?
I mean, Cherokee was really a good day running. And I'd say it was a really good day running, probably because of how it felt at the end and not so much in the middle. I don't know. It's tough. I'm really, really grateful, really happy that I was able to run 100 miles, do it in the park here without a race, without a crowd, without a really good plan. That was very difficult. For probably miles 10 to 20 were really, really rough. And then everything. Yeah. Megan knows. I went to the park on Friday afternoon. That was it. The park's 2 miles from my house. we run there all the time. We run from here to there, run around, come back. It's where I do most of our training. Love that park, but it was all right, I'm gonna go run. And then things didn't quite go well on the second loop, and it was really rough. And Becca and she gave me a lot of tough love. We got about a bit shoddy with one another. But from that moment, like, everything just clicked. And so miles 80 to 100 were just really committed to the process and running 100 miles. And not to say that it got easier, but it was really easy to finish that distance at that point. It was just, there wasn't a question. There wasn't a waiver. It was just, I'm going to run 100 miles before we go home. And so I was really happy that I was able to put things together and do that. And large thanks to the people that came out. And I didn't tell anybody. I told a couple people, and then people just showed up because they find out, and that was a good day.
That's awesome.
Oh, wow.
So how big is the loop that you were running?
It's an 11-mile trail loop.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, it's got 3 different trails in the park, and one of them's about 4.5, 5 miles, and the other 2 or 3.5, 2.5.
Now, was this just like a spur of the moment on the whim thing, or did you plan this out for a few days?
We planned it. So I DNF'd George Jewell, and we decided I was looking for another race to do, and just logistically that time, there was nothing else that could happen. And so left without an actual race to sign up for. That's what we decided to do before we left Georgia. So I knew that that's what I was going to do. Like, a week and a half later.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Wow.
Yeah, it may have been a
2
week and a half,
weeks,
2 weeks, maybe, if that.
Well, definitely. You had all the training in at that point. So, yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that was probably a little harder too, because you were probably responsible for all your own stuff. I mean, I'm sure you had Becca crewing you, but at the same time, like, you didn't have aid stations. You were trying to take care of yourself.
Yeah. So I had an aid station, obviously at the parking lot, but I mean, that's a long time to be out there, 10 miles. So we kind of broke it down to like 8 and 3, but even still, there's sections like 8 miles between aid stations every time. Gets a little long out there after a while.
Yeah. Especially at night when you have that little bump in the road where you walk a lap or so. I mean, 10 miles is a long time to go with.
Yeah. We were started going alternating clockwise, counterclockwise each loop. And then Stafford was out with me. And then we both agreed that going one way was way, way worse than going the other.
When you get in your mindset that one of the aid stations sucks back at the car, you're like, I've been to this aid station before. It's horrible food.
Now, last question for you. What do you use? Like, do you have anything that you prefer to fuel with?
Yeah. Arby's roast beef sandwiches and
I love it. Hey, that's good food. Me and Mary eat Arby's at least twice a week, I feel like. Every time we travel for a race. Like, we had Arby's 3 times this weekend for Yeti.
But it's great. I mean, the calories for a regular roast beef sandwich, it's about 360 calories for a whole sandwich. Solid protein, good carbs, sodium. It packs well. It doesn't really spoil in your pack or anything. So I think it's just a great combination. And then Edmonds pound cakes, another 200 calories. They're light. They don't break down. They don't melt. Good stuff.
Now, I did run with a guy one time. I won't say his name on here, but you guys know him. But I ran with this guy one time we did the Barkley Challenge Loop, and he ran with a whole bag of frozen burritos. Okay. And as they thawed out, he ate them.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
And I had never seen anybody do that. And I was like, that is interesting. And that is a cheap way to fuel. I mean, that's
cold burrito, though.
Done it with like pizza sticks and stuff like that, and the stromboli and things like that.
You get that cold burrito isn't really. I mean, there was a time where I microwaved a lot of burritos, but I don't know if I could eat one cold.
Yeah, it'd be hard. I don't know. Literally, it would be hard. They were still kind of crunchy.
Yeah,
I didn't eat them.
That didn't sound good.
No. So you no gels at all type person?
No, I mean I use gels and other things, but those are primarily. Belvita bars are really good. I like those. Calories, solid carbs, not a lot of sugar. That's kind of what I look for.
Okay.
Man, not me. I'll take all the sugar you can give me. I was me and Mary were talking about the race, and we were getting close to the end of Yeti, and she said, "You're almost out of gels," and I'm like, "Uh oh." And I had just enough to finish though, but I'd bought a dozen gels for that race, and I had 2 left, and she gave me 2 of hers, so I had 12 gels total. But the gels were 180 calories each, so I mean, plus I was drinking some stuff in the drink as well. But man, I love sugar, and I know some people it doesn't go well for their stomach. So some people are like, try to reduce the sugar and carbs only, and that's what's kind of cool about all of this is everybody's unique in their own way of what their stomach can handle. So is that what you found works best for you?
Oh, I just like to eat real food, and those 2 things I think pack a lot of calories, and they're easy to carry around, and they're reliable. For those 3 things.
Well, real food's usually a little bit better for on your stomach, or at least easier, depending on how hard you're running.
I'm not running that hard, and I'm going to be out there. It's just, let's put it out there. Like, I'm going to be out there way longer than you are, Dave. And so I'm I can eat more things. Like, it's not a big deal.
You may not be out there longer than me. I mean, I've DNF'd plenty of my own races. So.
I guess if I do a 50K and you do 100, we're probably going to finish about the same time.
All right, Miss Becca. Now it's your turn. Jon, my last question is, I was going to ask you this. Since Becca is the mother of, Mid-State Mile, have you now become the father?
No, I'm the race official.
You are not the father.
No.
I just had to ask. All right, Becca. So now we want to hear a little bit about, we'll jump into Mid-State here shortly, but let's hear a little bit about who you are and how you got into running.
So I got into originally running track and cross country. I played basketball, believe it or not, contrary to my size. I think you can tell by my attitude. I was a basketball player, little point guard, whatever.
I bet you fouled out a lot.
I was like first quarter out.
No, because I was very, very sneaky.
Oh, were you? I love it.
If you need one in the back of the leg or the side of the leg just right, you give them a Charlie horse, or you catch their windpipe with your elbow. Yeah.
If my daughter's listening to this, you don't try that.
As saying it feels there's a sense of accomplishment when you watch that Charlie horse come on somebody and you hit that spot just right. I mean, you got to make up for it somewhere.
Hey, they don't see it.
Yeah, hit threes and hit them when they're not looking. That's it, pretty much.
That's cool. I honestly did not know you played basketball, so I didn't even know you ran cross country and track.
Yeah, basketball is actually really my first passion, and still a sport as much as I love running that I love more than running. That if that's even believable. I played that from 5th grade up through my junior year. I was partying a little too much in high school. That senior year, I knew I was not going to be able to do what I needed to do. But I played basketball pretty much year round, all through that. Basketball camps, YMCA leagues, like you name it. I played basketball for years. And then even after I graduated, I went back and helped with basketball camps and the team and stuff. I even actually coached a couple smaller leagues. Even before I had Allie, I still coached. And then, it's, anyways, that was my thing. And the track coach saw me play and he's like, "Do you ever get tired?" And I was like, "No, sport's not that hard." Pretty much. And he's like, "Yeah, it's running." And I will say, my freshman basketball coach was a bitch. And she just had us do suicides all the time. Like, you could never get anything right. So we just ran. It was great conditioning. I'm going to say that. She's a terrible coach. Great conditioning. And, so my first track practice, I went out and I got lost. And then I ran like 7 miles. They were like, "Looks like you're going to run distance." Because when they finally found me and my little Post-it note of directions, I dog cussed them and still had it. They were like, "You want to get in the van?" I'm like, "No, I'm going to run back at this point. This is stupid."
Your ultra running philosophy.
Yeah, pretty much. So I did the 2 mile, 4x100 and the 4x8. I was anchor leg in the 4x8. I qualified for the grade 8, which is 3 years. And I think I ran 2 of them, which is basically the top 8 runners in the district, both private and public. Then I ran cross country, all to keep in shape for basketball. And all throughout cross country, I was like, we run through the woods, but this is not real woods. Because y'all seen where like Mid-State is and where I grew up. I'm the generation there on that farm. And the trails we have now, we didn't have. It was all deer trails before it was logged when I was in middle school. So I just grew up literally running through the woods. And when I was training for basketball, cross country, and track, my mom would make me do hill repeats out there on what is Widow's Road. And so that was like running through the woods for me. And so I was running cross country. I was like, this is not real woods. This is a field, and this is dumb. But I was really good at it. And I was competitive. I think, yeah, did well at that. And then graduated and had no interest in doing anything else. And I still just like ran for fun, pretty much. Like just went over to the park, did stuff. And then fast forward, and I don't know, I've been ultra running for close to 10 years now. So I was just shy of 30. I was day drinking with my best friend's brother. We're drinking margaritas. And he said he was going to run a 50K for his birthday. And we're the same age. And we're like, oh, yeah, we should do that. I was 20. Anyway, yeah. I signed up with a training program. He got promoted at a job, moved to West Virginia. So I was like, well, I'm in this thing. I mean, I've been over running in the park. I'm out there, like, actually, like, running. For the first time in years, I was running double-digit miles and just enjoying it. And then I did my first 50K, and since then, it's just kind of been full throttle. But yeah, margaritas were the turning point, my introduction to ultra.
Margaritas. I love how day drinking turned into her signing up for her first ultra. Like that's usually how most people get signed up for their first race. They're like, it's either New Year's and a friend is talking about some race that they're going to do and registration opens and they sign up, and the next day they're like, did I really do that?
I've talked some people into some stuff, and so funny because I was like, 50K, yeah, count me in, ultra marathon. And I was like, how far is that? I have no idea. None, but I was already in. Let's do it.
Was there any marathons or anything leading up to this?
No.
Or just straight, like, just, that's it, we're going?
To this day, I've never ran a marathon.
Okay.
And I never ran a half marathon on the road or anything like that. I actually wanted to. When I ran track, I wanted to. And there's this girl that always got to run the halves. And I was like, that sounds really fun. I want to go further. And then my track coach told me, you're good and fast. No, you're going to rest this week. And I was basically told I was not allowed to do anything else other than what they told me to do. They were like, I need you to win. We just need her to get points. It's fine. Like, and I remember like just being so angry. I was like, that's so stupid. Like, I want to go and do that. And then after I graduated and wasn't made to do anything anymore, I was like, I don't know. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Every time we do one or something like that, I'm like, this is just bullshit. I was like, why? None of these people are drinking. They're not laughing. They're not having a good time. Yet we're out here. They don't want to talk to you. Nothing.
Yeah. So last year was my first marathon ever. So I'm kind of like was in your boat, Becca. And Mary's like, we go to this marathon so that we can watch her athletes run. This is before. So I've still not signed up for this marathon, and we're at the other marathon. So this is at the end of the year, and I was not running a marathon until March we had talked about. And I'm sitting here watching these people go by, and I just looked at Mary and I said, do you see why I don't want to do this? They are all miserable. Every one of them. They won't look at me. They look like they're about to cry. They turn their head. Like, I'm like, good job. And they're like, and I was like, who wants to do that? Like, you're out there on a trail and people are like high-fiving you as you go by and you're smiling and you take a shot of Fireball.
Yeah.
But I finally did do one. So,
Frozen burritos.
It is definitely a different vibe altogether. Like, that's 100% for sure. Now, there are a few marathoners that run trails and, they kind of get it. I understand that. But for the most part, it's a different vibe. Me and Mike screwed up one time and signed up for, we thought we were signing up for a trail 30K race to work. it was a road 30K, and we got smacked like every 12 seconds trying to hold a bottle or a little cup of water out. Remember that?
Yeah.
So we finally just put all the cups out on the table, and we stood behind the table.
Yeah.
And as they come by, they're like, and I'm like,
yeah, it's so weird. I guess, there are trail runners that get really enthusiastic about doing the track work and doing stuff and doing really hard workouts and seeing how fast they can do things. I was made to do that year round for almost 4 years. I have no desire whatsoever. And I think that's a lot of the attitude too with like running. And I watch people be that miserable. And I remember being like, this fucking sucks. Like, I would have to I love competing, and there's a side of me that really is just a vicious killer. And if you could hear the things in my head, and I will hug your neck and slit your throat, but I won't actually do that. But the things that I have to tell myself to like stay in that zone, run a 5:30 mile or 5:20 mile, and you're out there again, a shocker. Everyone was taller and bigger than me. It was no different than it was in basketball. You're slinging elbows at your face. Like you have to stay in a place. And I didn't realize it at the time, but in hindsight, I didn't like who I had to be out there in order to do what I wanted to do. And it really took the joy out of it. It was really just pretty much, I would say to my coaches, what do you need me to run? And that's what I would go do. And that would be my focus because it wasn't fun for me. And so
that's more of a job.
Yeah, running isn't fun. I don't know why.
I think running is fun though. And I genuinely enjoy it. And I couldn't at the time. So I think now I approach my training just so different than some people in that, because I had all those years where it was ruined for me and I had to compete and I had to perform and I had to do things, and had to score points, and I was anchor leg in the 4x8. I couldn't afford to have a bad race if we were in a place like I had to 2:30 every time, which now that's actually a pretty slow time. And
yeah, kids running fast out there now.
The top girls in the state were just creeping into the 2:20s. I mean, I'm out there about dying. And even still in the track meets, I'm still having to run like 3.5 miles. Most people just had to do like 1 or 2 events. The ones where you could do 4, they had me do everything. And yeah, it just, it ruined it for me for a long time. But I think it really keeps me honest now and focused on the joy, because I don't want to lose that.
Yeah. No, I heard we've had another guest on here that was ran a lot of cross country and did track in college, and same thing. They had so much pressure on them, they didn't enjoy it. They lost their joy, and they found their joy when they actually started ultra running and trail running, and looked back on college and was like, I really just didn't enjoy that at all. It was too much pressure, and always trying to like hit those times. I mean, I can see I didn't run track or cross country. We didn't have it at my school, so I kind of missed that whole bubble and didn't have to experience any of that pressure. I wish that we would have had that, because I would have probably started running earlier. So I didn't find running till 2015, pretty later in life. So when you got out of school, did you take a break? I know you said you kind of, when you finished school, you didn't really want to run, but I didn't follow if you continued to run.
I continued to run on occasion. I mean, I worked in the restaurant industry after that. So, that's a different lifestyle for sure. But I would still go over to the park and get in a few miles and not do anything crazy. And even if I didn't run, I would just kind of hike around, because I always loved to be in nature. That was where I wanted to be. So it was kind of like, well, I'm a little hungover today. I guess I should go sweat it out. I didn't necessarily do it for fitness.
Now, what was your first 50K that you were talking about? Do you remember what that race was?
Oh, it was Run for the Kids 50K down in Alabama around Oak Mountain State Park. It was a relatively flat loop, all things considered. But, oof, man, that first one, it hurts. And I also found out the hard way, we oftentimes run too fast in training. When you've been running for multiple hours and you slow down, you're using so many different muscles. And then you're like, oh, I've not ran at this pace, because you go run, 2, 3, 4 hours. Like, you're like, oh, I can maintain this. This is easy. start creeping up to 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, that pace looks quite different. And I found out in my first 50K, you ran way too fast.
So what is your longest distance so far?
Well, 630 miles across the state.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say that with a oof.
Yeah, and how long did that take you? I'm trying to remember now. Is it
2 weeks?
14 and a half days.
Yeah, 14 and a half days
okay.
over.
I was thinking 12, but 14. Okay.
Yeah, the original goal was 12, but it
Okay, maybe that's why I was thinking that.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing, Becca. Was that
is.
something you just decided to do yourself? Like, did you design that route, or was it a route that you had been thinking about?
No.
He's got a great goal. Meant to. Go ahead, babe.
So whatever, that fall, she's like, I want to do something, I don't want to just want to run a race. I want to do something that's a little more meaningful. I want to, whatever it is. I'm thinking about running X, or from here to Bristol. Nashville to Bristol, I think is what it was. And then she talks to Greg Armstrong. And he had plotted out that route in like 2020, 2021.
Before mid-state.
Before mid-state, and had attempted it, I think, twice. And then somebody else had attempted it. He's like, well, I got this route across the state from Arkansas to Virginia.
Furthest tip, diagonally.
And so
from
she
like
calls
that.
me. She's like, I'm going to run across the whole state. And I went, huh.
My original plan was like 306 miles.
That's not what we talked about.
You're just like, why can't she just be normal for a minute?
That's like twice as far.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, it wasn't her idea. It was Greg Armstrong. But Greg is one of those people where he says, hey, you should do this. You just kind of go, okay, yeah. And then you do it. And so that's where it came from. But it was quite the journey.
And knowing Greg probably put some thought and effort into that route. I have no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it starts in Arkansas, in the middle of the field. You got to trespass a bit.
You could get on the road for the activity, but yeah, if you want to touch the actual state,
You're gonna wander into some guy's field, and
only like 100 yards.
you're gonna drive somewhere that you don't think you should be driving, and then you're gonna run in Arkansas for about 20 miles, and then you're gonna find yourself in West Memphis and go, we're in West Memphis now.
Let's get through there real quick.
Yeah, and then you cross the Mississippi River in Tennessee. Yeah. Good times.
So 14 days. Did you crew her the entire time, Jon?
All but 2. I had to come back and work for a couple of days when we got to Nashville. So I missed 2 days of it. And then when we got to town, I took a couple of half days off because we were closer to Nashville. We had some friends come out and crew for half the day, for most of the day.
Yeah.
But, I was along for the ride.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in those situations, crewing's just as demanding as the running, because you're trying to stay awake, you're trying to get the food, you're trying to keep the vehicle gassed. It's rough. So Becca, what was your goal per day? Like, how many miles were you trying to hit per day?
I think originally I was way too aggressive, which is fine. I mean, not knowing going into that. And here's the thing, you think on the road, you're like, oh, well, that's easier than the trail. That's, obviously you should have more miles than you would trail running. But the thing about being on the road, and especially a lot of these country roads, because Greg and Dwayne, who works the aid station, the Parrish family, were the ones that designed the route, and they had not driven the route prior to. And there is a whole lot of no shoulder, little shoulder, single shoulder, and there's some other,
especially when you get to East Tennessee, it became rough shoulder wise.
Yeah. So we're on these 2-lane highways on a lot of it, and that is basically how people get to and from work and travel. So traffic really dictates what you're able to do pace wise, which didn't see that coming, because when there's nowhere to go or nowhere to step off and you have just car, or even when you come through town, like I remember coming through Farragut, and it took me over an hour and a half to go 5 miles because of all the stoplights and all the traffic that was going on, because everyone's turning left. You have 5 lanes going here and there. If you come through town in the middle of the day, you can kind of just dart through and you're really late. But no, not during rush hour. You can't fucking do that. It's real life Frogger. Like you cannot mess around with that. So,
But there's no crosswalks or anything. There was sidewalk, but no crosswalk.
yeah. So it was, you're just running, gunning, and praying. Like that's pretty much
That's
it.
real stretch.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds a little bit like Vol State, though. I mean, there's
Yeah.
no shoulder on a lot of that stuff. But
You just get, I don't say you get, I guess you used to it, but you do. You're just like, at some point you just get over it completely. You're just like, I'm just going to walk. If they hit me, screw them, whatever. So.
Yeah, I created what I referred to as a Becca lane on certain stretches. So, like, I would not move over, and I would like wave cars over. Keith came out closer to the beginning when we were near town, and then out towards East Tennessee. And he was like, "It's so funny the difference in you now after more days out on the road and just your overall like aggression towards the cars. And I'm not moving." He was like, "You're just like this grizzled road runner at this point." And we got to see a robbery in progress.
was this in West Memphis?
No, this is actually in East Tennessee somewhere.
Oh.
Outside of Perriman or something.
I don't remember.
No, my still in their meth.
Yeah, like it was. The building was closed. It was like some sort of market thing, and then the guy had ran out. It was a whole thing. We hung around to watch it for a little bit, but
I don't blame you. That's good entertainment.
I mean, I want to see how it unfolded and if they found the guy. Like the door's just sitting there swinging. You see, he just ran out. The getaway car is parked over here, obviously, and then I don't know.
Well, I mean, when you've been running for days and all you've seen is cars go by and you actually have some live action, I mean, yes, you're engaged at that point, like sitting down, eating your snacks.
Yeah, it was, and it was also a nice break from running. I was happy to have an actual reason to stand around.
Well, you also have another pretty cool achievement too, though. You are a multiple-time Cruel Jewel finisher.
Multiple.
So I think that's a huge testament to like your grit, obviously just to do the 14-day, trek that you just talked about. But also, I mean, Cruel Jewel, how many times have you finished that now?
The 100 I finished 4 out of 5 times, and the 52 out of 3, I believe.
That's pretty impressive.
Maybe about something like that. Yeah, it's.
So do you feel like there was something different on this last one? Because I'm over here, at the house, just watching all my buddies just drop like flies everywhere. I'm like, what the crap's going on at this course this year and everything? Even the guys that were starting at nighttime, I'm like, man, there's something in the water, But what do you feel like kept you going this particular?
I'll say this. The way the course runs now, a lot of people make the mistake of running that first 50K way too hot. And here's the thing. The race starts at noon.
Mm-hmm.
And we're used to races starting in the morning. It's cooler. You're starting in the heat of the day, and it is so easy to get hung up in all the excitement that you neglect cooling and taking it easy. I remember the first year they ran it that way. I saw him on the side of the road, right around the bridge, all that. And I mean, let me tell you, on the road, I was running probably like a 10:30 at that point, and I'm getting past. Like I am standing still by, and I mean this in the kindest way. People who have no business being around me. I mean, they are. Let's just say these people would be hours.
They're running too fast.
Yes, I'm gonna say that.
They're running faster than they look like they should be running.
Yes, and I come through. He's like, "What's going on?" I was like,
I was so embarrassed. Sitting there like a nerd, waiting. Where
there's like
urgency me for all these people. It's like here. What's going on?
Yeah, that was the year after I took second. I got third that year. But I mean, I dropped way back to like 20 something female.
Yeah.
I mean, I stayed back, but I was like, I knew that first 50K, you just can't go out that hot, and that people would, and they did, because that is the most runnable section of the course. But again, heat of the day.
Still do.
Yep. And I think they will continue to. And it's very easy. Like I have to work really, really hard. And this year I stopped at a bunch of the creek crossings at Deep Gap, took my shirt off, dipped it in water, and I could watch my heart rate go down 10 to 15 beats on my watch immediately. My heart rate still stayed, not at a hard effort, but due to the humidity and the heat, it was running in the 170s at an easy pace because it's so hot. I stayed running at that for the beginning, and I got to the road. I walked. I got my heart rate back where it would stay back around like 140. Again, took advantage of all the water that was out there when I knew I had it. And
it was hot in the afternoon this
hot.
year. It was hotter in the afternoon this year than it was last year. Last year, it stayed warm and humid through the night. You didn't get a break. Mm-hmm. This year, it cooled off at night. So a lot of that is just, I've seen this race take place, so I'm going to weigh in on it.
For almost 8 years.
I've developed strong opinions. You come out of Stanley Gap, and you run a 6-mile downhill on a road that just feels really good. And then you come into Old Dial Aid Station feeling really good, and you hit the first 5 miles of the Benton Mackay, the DRT, where the race really starts to happen, and you get punched in the face, and you just don't know what hit you, because then it gets hard.
Yeah.
Then when they started the other way, they started at Vogel, and you ran the first 20 miles from Vogel to Skeena. You start on the Duncan Ridge Trail, and the race is hard immediately, and you understand that it's hard immediately, and you are a little more reserved in the first half of the race. And I don't think that happens so much in the first 50K anymore. It feels good. It feels easy. I don't know why everybody says it's so hard, and you run a little hot, and you spend a little too much gas.
Yeah. That first 25 miles, though, is pretty runnable. And then you hit that section the way it runs now. When you climb out of Old Dial, that mountain, like, it's like a 3-mile climb, and it sucks all the dicks. Like, it really, 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 truly does. It's that section is the first section, if you're running that direction, that, like, lets you know, hey, welcome to the Thunderdome. And it's about it does. It just harder and harder and harder from there. But that first 25 and that heat of the day, it sucks you in. I mean, I remember before I saw them at Old Dial, I was like, he's yelling at me because you drive down the road, right, going to the aid station. And I was hoping I could get in the river and get back on the trail before I saw them, because I knew he'd be like, what are you doing over there?
I was asking the aid station captain there at the very first cruise station. Is that Old Dial?
Yep.
Yeah.
So on the way, the next day Mary had a 50-mile athlete coming through. So we were all there, and I was talking to him, and he said this is by far the worst year I've seen. He said every year's kind of rough, he said, but for some reason this year, he said all the times are a couple hours slower.
Yeah.
And he said, we're already past our most DNFs, I think, that we've had in a long time. And I was like, wow. I was like, I wonder why it was just so different. And maybe there was more newer runners. I don't know. There's always, you never really can tell that, but I do know that it was really hot at the start of that race. It was really hot, and it was like a war zone out there in the first 40 miles. And it goes back to what you were saying, the first aid station that I was standing at waiting on Mary to come through, there were people hitting that aid station. I was just like, wow, they look hot, and you could tell, like, to each their own, like, run the race how you want to run the race. But, I do feel like there was a lot of people that was running faster than their ability would allow them to run 100 miles at that pace.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that heat, and I was just like, man. But I mean, I watched, like, as the second or third place female at that point, she dropped, right there at mile 20 ish, and I was just like, wow. And then just rolling through, people coming through, and I was like, man, this is like, it's like a war zone out here. I hadn't seen that since No Business, that one year that I worked that aid station, but this was by far worse. Did it feel like it was warmer than normal at the start of that race, or was that kind of consistent?
I think there's been one year that was hotter. I think the year in about 32 hours, so maybe been the year before, somewhere around there.
It's been warmer there than it was this year.
It has been, sure. But I will say that is a race too that there's not a whole lot of repeat runners, so you'll get a lot of that, especially since it is a Hard Rock qualifier and a Western States qualifier. Their international field is growing, which is actually really cool to see, and they have a really high finishing rate. Like, and those guys, like, I'm telling you, like, they're so strong to watch. It's super fun, and they get a lot of people from, I guess, like, I would say of Asian descent. I don't know.
Can't pick an Asian country off the top of your head.
No, well, because I don't know. But there's several that barely speak English, or you can't, like, you get to, like, try and talk to them out there. And anyways, it's super, super cool. I love watching how it's grown and see the new faces come through. And you usually get people who are running the 50 and get the belt and then got to go get the buckle, or get the buckle and come back and get the belt. But yeah, back to the point of it being hot, it was a more humid year. I don't think temperature wise it was as hot as it has been, but the humidity was thicker than it has been. I will say that.
And I was just looking. So if you go like back to 2022, 50 DNFs, 23, 50 DNFs, 24, 48 DNFs, 25, 73 DNFs. So like that is a huge difference.
Wow. I think what's done it is they've taken away. There used to be a crew spot at Skeena Gap, which is which starts the Duncan Ridge Trail proper, and so you would get 3 crew spots right in a row, about 5 miles, bang, 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 and so then you had 20 miles to the turnaround. I think that's a more manageable. You know what this section is? It's the DRT. You know it's going to take longer. You know when you're going to be halfway there, and they pulled that Skeena Gap aid station out. And so now you're at Will Scott with 25 miles on rough terrain going into the night with no crew. And I think that's, hey, this is your chance. Like, you don't get another 5 miles to see if this is going to work out, or you don't get another 5 miles to go, okay, this is all I have, to the
So they got to make that decision much earlier.
Yeah, I think you get a lot more decision makers there. And then also 50s don't have that crew break 20 miles in.
Yeah.
They've got
Was that because of parking?
Parking's a big issue. It's a busy highway. There's you were at Will Scott and saw all the traffic that came through there.
I saw the truck that about rolled off the cliff.
It is double that traffic wise easy at Skeena without probably as much parking.
Yeah. And a lot of speed. Like, people just fly through there. So, a lot of the locals. It's
safety. I mean, I get it. I completely understand, but I think you pull back and look at it and go, yeah, this is going to affect finisher rates for a minute.
Yeah. I mean, I know mentally it affected me on the way back. Really? I mean, like, all the way out, it wasn't too bad. Like, I had prepped myself for how much that was going to suck. But leaving the turnaround, and then after the downpour and the terrain and all the mud, I mean, so bad. It was the worst. The DRT this year after that thunderstorm was the worst I've ever freaking seen. And I've gone and paced Fierce Dragon a couple times with snow and ice and mud and all sorts of things, and been out there for the DRT 50K and all. Spent a lot of time out there. It was the worst. It was borderline traumatizing. It tested me in a lot of ways. And usually I'm very happy out there. I'm like, I see you, Mother Mountain, messing with me. I got you. Cool. I kind of roll through it. The amount of briars in my face, the amount of mud, it was the thing. And I get to Skeena, and I'm so used to seeing the crew there and having to know I had like another hour and a half, or really at the pace I'd been moving 2 hours. I started crying. It's all live. She was like, you told me emotion wastes energy. I'm like, I know.
I love it. I love it.
Like, she was reminding me of all the things. She was doing a great job. I was like, I usually fight so hard to get to this point, and I get to see the things, and now I know how much further I have to get to know. And I actually hate going to Will Scott that direction. And it was just like another kick. And I just stood at the side of the road for a minute. And I was like, I know how good this used to be. Why does it have to be like this?
I think it's fantastic. A longer break for crew.
It is a very easy race to crew. I will say that.
But on the way down the DRT, like headed out for that 20-mile section, there were actually 3, maybe 4 runners I saw coming back down because they knew crew wouldn't be able to get them. And once you get to Fish Gap, that is a no drop aid station. One, people can't get there. Jenny and them are not taking you out. And then Fire Pit is almost inaccessible for crews because that's an insanely rough road and nowhere to go. So you really can't drop until 20 miles later. And they realized that and were coming back down the mountain as I was going
People
up.
coming back is new.
Oh my.
People
never
turning
seen that.
around and coming back into an aid station to drop it at Curl Jewel is new.
Yeah, because in the
I've
past
not
they
seen
could
that.
drop at Skeena.
Yeah, I've not seen people go out of an aid station, turn around and come back.
Yeah, this is the first year that I've seen it personally.
Yeah, I even saw that happen a couple times myself.
Yeah.
I just assumed that was normal.
Nope.
Well, and last question on this, then we'll get into your all's race. But I heard a little rumor that you finished this race barefoot.
No, not barefoot, but I do run in sandals.
Might as well.
I like my Teva Hurricane sandals. If it gets pretty sloppy out there, I'll put on shoes, but sandals are my go-to. I didn't know it was going to rain, so I didn't have all my shoes for the DRT section. That's the whole thing, but that was pretty frustrating. But yeah, sandals are where it's at. I actually broke my toe running Curl Jewel 50-miler wearing shoes on an uphill coming out of Weaver Creek. I think I get more reckless when I have on shoes, and it's like a false sense of protection. So yeah, I like sandals. I did take my shoes off at one point on the road section because I just like needed my feet to be able to like move and do their thing.
Well, see, I had heard that you were walking barefoot down the road. That's why I said that.
Yeah, I was.
You were literally walking barefoot then down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I had on my socks, but yes, I had my shoes in my hand and I was running the road section on the return trip barefoot.
Yep.
Just trying to just giving your feet a break.
Yeah, and the little stones kind of massaged it. Like I know you think it's weird, but it was just nice, like the different like pressure points. And I was literally at one point just like rubbing my feet on the pavement because they've been wet for so long. And you know, I feel like your feet can almost itch when they've been wet for so long. That skin is so irritated. Anyways, yeah, I was enjoying that asphalt massaging the balls of my feet.
John, did you finish that when y'all got home?
No.
No, he didn't touch my feet. And you know what? I would say I don't blame him. I look at my feet and go, that's rough.
Yeah. Well, I think we can all say that after 100 miles, especially Curl Jewel wet 100 miles. So, but speaking of finisher rates, let's talk about Mid-State Mile, where there's only one finisher. So going all the way back to the, us four are sitting here. This is like the OG story of us four. Like, this is how we met. Me and Mike randomly messaging Becca about what is this race called Mid-State? And I mean, we still didn't even know what the race was the day we showed up.
No.
So it's fine.
Wow.
Dude's like, you guys have no clue, dude. He literally said that to us. Like, we were over there talking about what we're going to do. And dude's like, you ain't been on this course yet, have you? And I was
Well,
like,
it was Doug.
Oh, was it Doug?
It was Doug. Doug said, you're going to do 100 miles? I said, well, that's the goal. He's like, have you walked this? I said, Doug, okay.
It's a mile.
We got humbled real quick. When we did the first lap, we're like, yeah, we're not doing 100 miles today.
Well, we called our kids and we weren't going to, we was like, hey, we won't be home for Father's Day. We're going to be running and everything because Father's Day's the next day, and so forth like that. And we come back and I looked over at David after a lap or two. I was like, we're going to be at the home tomorrow. So there'll be no problem being at the house on Sunday.
Yeah. But how did this race, so obviously your mom was a fantastic coach because she had you doing hill sprints before you even knew that hill sprints were that good for you. So, but how did this course get developed? How did you come up with this last man standing race? How did all this come about and why, and how did it happen during COVID? Just curious.
Yeah. So I've been hearing for a while about these trails, Becca's property, and she'd been talking about wanting to get people out there to run and these, the trails are great and it's wonderful. And it's an old logging road. They had the property logged off. And so the logging company created a road, and that is essentially the trail we run, the Murder Mile, is a 1 mile road up 2 hills and back around. And I need you guys to know the first time I was out there was Thanksgiving. And Becca asked me if I wanted to go for a walk after dinner. And she was in like 6-inch platform heels walking up Widow's Road that's covered in leaves and it's like 2 feet of just undergrowth and nonsense. I'm struggling. And I'm like, what have I got myself into going out here? And so we walked basically the whole course is the walk we went on. But it was April, I believe, and the parks had gotten overrun and then everything got shut down. And we know why that happened. And she's like, I'm going to clear this trail. I'm going to have some people come out and run. So essentially that's what we did. We just cleared a path with a leaf blower on that loop and invited our friends out to run on Saturday mornings because that's what we did. That's what we did in our community as a group.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I was training for Cruel Jewel.
You were training for Cruel Jewel because it hadn't canceled yet. So you needed a place to train. You didn't want to go to the park because you couldn't go to the park anywhere. It was too much. And so we had our friends out and that's what we were doing. And I think it was the second, maybe the third Saturday we had people out running and somebody said, you should put on a race. And we just said, okay. And so that's what we did. And we had to figure out what we could do with only a mile to work with. A 50K doesn't really make sense. And, we didn't want to put on a half marathon or anything silly like that. So a traditional distance didn't really seem to feel right. And I'm a big fan of the last man standing races, the traditional backyard, the 4.167 mile loop. I think it's really awesome to just go out there and see how far people can run. Is really pure form of ultra running. And so I knew that's kind of what I wanted to do and what we settled on, but the mechanics of it didn't work because nobody was doing that on a 1 mile loop and nobody was doing it with massive elevation gain. 340 feet for a mile wasn't being done. A last man standing wasn't being done on a mile. And then, so it was different. It was new. It wasn't out there. And so that's exciting to bring something new to the world of ultra running that's not being done.
We searched.
And we looked.
Yeah, we searched.
We looked. And we were really conscious of, hey, the world is going to come back alive eventually. And we don't want to be on top of somebody else's race as race directors. So we thought Father's Day weekend, nobody's putting on a race. There's nothing real close to it. This is a good weekend. We can have a community event. We can bring people together. This will be, you get to come and see your person run every mile as opposed to once every 5 hours or whatever it is in a traditional distance. So that was really neat. But we had to figure out the time. Like what is that time crunch going to be to eliminate people or make people keep going? And Allie was out there walking with us and she did the loop in 20 minutes.
She was 11 at the time.
She was 11 and she was in boots. And so like, okay. And we were kind of thinking this 20-minute timetable was what it really needed to be. It's 3 miles an hour. That math's really pretty easy to keep track of everything. And there's some pushback. We were like, oh no, you can't make people do it every 20 minutes. Just let them run 3 loops in an hour and count it that way. And like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do 20-minute loops. We're going to keep everybody on the same timetable. And my idea was to just see if we can get 50 of our friends to come out and run this thing. Let's invite 50 of our friends to come out and see if this concept even works, because we don't know. And we'll run it for 24 hours and, or 12 hours or whatever it was, just to see if this experiment works. We're going to call it year 0. And then Becca was in charge of all the ultra sign up. And then she texted me and she's like, hey, ultra sign up is live. I did everything. We didn't cap it at 50 people and we're just going to send.
Yeah, because he wanted to stop at like 12 hours. And I was like,
12, 24, I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I was like, we're not doing all this work to cap it. Like, no, I'm not doing that. Let's go.
So she hit send and God bless her, she was right and I was wrong, because everybody that showed up was the right person to show up. And the 20-minute time frame works and the 1 mile works. And it was just a really, really beautiful display of community once again. And there were some limitations still. And we were in Williamson County or Davidson County. I think we said we were in Williamson County in Tennessee was a little bit more lax at that time. Once we knew what the world was actually going on and things were looking brighter and better. And one of the caveats to having a large gathering was you could have a wedding reception. And so,
or a funeral.
And
Thankfully,
we didn't want anybody to die. But one of our friends was getting married and he's like, well, shoot, I'll just say this is my wedding reception. And so that's what we did to kind of skirt around the rules of society as they were making.
Some of the runners had their little bow ties. We had like a little groomsman tent. They were all together. And everything.
I remember.
Yeah.
And the murder mile was born.
Yeah. The cops did show up because I accidentally called them. And I was super paranoid about that. I knew it would be fine, but I also just, you never knew at that time.
I didn't care.
No, they were good. They were like, oh, it's a beautiful drive out here. Took their time leaving, and that was the whole thing.
How did you accidentally call the cops?
You know when like you can if that side button on your phone gets held down at a certain, it's like emergency call.
Man, what a terrible time for that to happen.
Well, I threw my phone in. First off, our friend almost did it on the drive out there. He had thrown his phone in the passenger seat, and then he realized it was doing the emergency call on his way out there and like tracking him. And the lady was like, "Do you need help?" And he was like, "Oh no, sorry, like didn't mean to call emergency, whatever." And I was like, "Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby? Don't you manifest that? No fucking police." Well, day 2, sometime on Sunday, I threw my phone in one of the chairs and I went back to the crossroads, and I came back about 40 minutes later and my dad was like, "Did you call the police?" And I was like, "I didn't call the police." And he's like, "Somebody called the police. It had to be you. Somebody up here." And I walked over and picked up my phone, and emergency services had been calling me multiple times.
Oh, my.
And I was like, I just called the cops on my own race when I was so scared for them to show up. And I was like, I manifested this. This is what I have done. I have great power.
But you all, kind of maneuvered your way out of that a little bit, so they were cool with it.
Yeah, it all ended up being fine, but it was just
another exciting moment.
How much trail work did you have to do? There was quite a bit, right? Like you had to build that trail?
No, the trail itself was there. It's a logging road, essentially. But it had to be cleared. There was multiple trees down laying across it. Obviously we had to clear it with leaves and saplings and stuff. I mean, it was a lot of work. We built a section of trail, which is Here's Johnny. It's the only single track that's really out there. Once you go up Myers and come down Devil's Dance all the way to the second hill, Machete, there's a section of trail we had to build to get across so we didn't have to double back.
Yeah. But aside from that, I mean, it was still a ton of work to get it wide enough.
And in shape.
Yeah. There was a lot of ruts and stuff, and it was pretty like just kind of one track on some of it. 20 years of not having anything done to it. Yeah.
Did it occur to you all during, was there a point you were like, during the race, or was it after the race, you're like, whoa, what have we just created? What do you recall that at all?
Yeah, I think, that afternoon you realize that this works and this is fun and people can do it and we've got something here. But the finish that year that we had was that moment, like, okay, this is going to be something bigger than just people running a mile until they can't.
Yeah, the ripple effect from that was, honestly, I never could have anticipated any of that. The amount of people who reached out and saw the clip of Greg or followed along. And at one point on Sunday, people are just showing up to my parents' house because Jesse had been live streaming on Chad's stuff and on his thing. And like, when people are just showing up to my parents' house and have figured out where it is, you're like, what? You
realize you got something. I mean, we had our first sponsor call this while the race was still going to see if they could get involved. But we had the idea of wristbands because bibs didn't make sense and we were going to cut them off and hang them up. But I was not ready for the race to end. I was not prepared to take Greg Armstrong's bracelet at the end of that race. Like, I was not ready for that moment at all. So it was one of those things where you realize that the impact of running this race is more than just running miles.
Yeah, and to be honest, what you said earlier speaks volumes too. Like the people that showed up.
Yes.
It was a really good event because of the community that was involved in it. You all did a great job race directing because that was probably your first race you'd ever race directed, right? Like, I would assume.
Yeah,
Was
I
my
could have already needed help, but that was our first full blown, like, we're doing this.
You all did a great job with that. Like everything was on, on track, on point, on time. Like everything happened when it was supposed to. But man, the people though, it was just camaraderie the whole time. And that's why you love this community so much, is that you see the people that are key points in this community that help bring people together. The people that are truly involved and want to see the good and help, they're out there on the course running with you and pushing you and helping you. And that is what builds such an amazing race. And you all had that from the very beginning. And I think that helped just push that over even more, because I met a lot of great people that day that I still talk to, that I still admire, and that's what's so cool about this sport, regardless of anything. It's that community that is so supportive.
Yeah, I think if you're coming to Mid-State Mile you're going to meet people, and it's going to change you, who you are, how those people are on the course. They're not racing against you. They're out there doing their thing. You will leave out of there feeling, I felt blessed. At one point, I still recall it. This was new to me and David. We was just started East Coast Adventures, going to put on a race, all of it getting canceled, etc. But when we were there looking around, as he said, all the right people were there. I look over and see Chad and Noah, and I think Noah's dad, and they're praying. And I'm like, man, we're not at a random race 5K or something like that. This is different. This race right here is, I don't have a word for it. I mean, but if you're first time runner to Mid-State Mile, you get to listen to this before, it's life changing. The people you will meet on the course.
Yeah, it's a community, and I think that's what we wanted to build more than anything. And I still don't think we've built a community by any stretch of the imagination, but we're blessed to be able to host one.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people that show up, and that's what's really gratifying at the end of the day, is that the community does exist, and it is empowering, and it is more than just running, and it is relationship, and it's bigger than anything we could have imagined.
Yeah, and sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I would say it's just also so cool to hear you guys and your thoughts and your perspective, because you were there that first year, and this was like, when we all first got to meet each other, and yeah, you've seen it since the inception. Mm-hmm. So, I love hearing your thoughts after seeing it then, and then you were out there crewing Mary last year, and you ran, and you're coming back this year.
Yeah, I'm excited about that, because it's that very first year, me and Mike did that first lap, and our immediate thought was, yeah, we both called our daughters after like lap 2 or 3 and said, yeah, we'll be home tomorrow. And we had no intentions of running through the night. Even we had already planned, like, there's no way that we're gonna do that, because we already had other races that we had signed up for. We didn't realize what we had signed up for at this point. So, I remember me and Doug were out there. It was at night, and, I was going to quit, and because, it was already at midnight, and me and Mike were going to drive back. And I just remember Doug saying, well, you can't quit. I'm like, why? He's like, because I'm not going to quit yet. He's like, you got to run one more lap than me. He's like, I'm not going to be the last race director standing, or something like that. And I'm like, what are you even talking about? He's like, if you're the last race director, you get that cool hat. He's like, you deserve that, not me. I'm like, no, you can have it. And we kept going back and forth. And like, I remember he went and cut his wristband off. He got there in front of me and had you cut his wristband off. And he's like, now you have to go. And I'm like, you suck. So I had to go back out one more lap, but it was just cool. Like, that's the first time I'd met Doug, and like the relationships that, you get to build and just see growth from that. And, you can say you haven't built a community, or you have, it doesn't matter. You give people the platform for the community. And that's huge, and you have built a community, because there are people that come every year to run your event. And that says something. That's something about the type of event you put on, the type of people you are. And also it says something about how hard that course is, because people want to push themselves. And there's no better course that I know of than Mid-State Mile. It will humble you so quickly. I don't care how hard you train for this race. It doesn't matter. You can get humbled very quick. So, we've seen it. It's happened to me. Like that very first year, I think I ran like 40 something miles, and, we just stopped, So the next year I go back and I think, shoot, I'm doing 100. Next thing I know, y'all probably remember this. Mike hands me a can of chicken noodle soup and tells me to drink it. And I drink it and I threw it up all over the finish line, like everywhere. And it was just like, the couple laps after that, it was all downhill from there. But I was just like, that's when I truly learned, like, you have to take whatever the day gives you. And that race is so humbling. And I think you all do such a good job too of after that, of helping people feel like they've done something big, because that truly is a whole key point of it. And it's one of the things that me and Mike have always tried to do with East Coast Adventures, and that's everybody should be celebrated. Everybody. It doesn't matter if you only do 2 laps at Mid-State Mile. It could be your PR. Like, it doesn't matter. You should be celebrated. And you all did a good job of that. And you still do a good job of that. And I think that is so important. There's a lot of race directors that truly don't get that, but you guys do. And I think it's very important.
Thank you.
Yeah. And, I think a lot of ways is you're able to see it all transpire in front of you as a race director standing in the corral, at least from my position. You can see what people are going through the entire time. You can watch their descent and them falling off and them picking back up. And so I think that really, it gives you buy-in to what they're going through, because you can see it happen so concisely. You know what they've been through the entire time they've been running this race. It's not like they were out there in the woods for 20 hours and had highs and lows. You could see any of it, and they just stumbled across the finish line. You had no idea I was in a low point when I came across Cherokee. I was just there doing great. But when you get to see that, when you get to see their low points the entire time, you invest in them. And when they finally finish their race, you're able to celebrate them because you know how hard they worked for it.
Yeah. And, in your race, though, you get to see that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like you really do, because it's every 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Cherokee or, Cruel Jewel, you may not see your runner for hours to really know when that happened. So it's really interesting to have a very short course where you see how quick that switch flips. Like it's truly cool to see how someone can go from just smiling and 10 minutes of coming down that hill, they're defeated.
Yeah.
And, and you all do a really good job of trying to help them get that back. And I think that's important, because that race, one lap can change that entire race. If you have a really bad lap, you're done. Yeah. And, I see you all working so hard at that. Like Becca, you're out there cheerleading. Like you really are. Like you're at the top of the hill yelling for people to come on and cheering them on
and everything, just everywhere.
Yeah. So. And it's sometimes it's just destruction out there. Like on laps, you see people just falling apart, but you all are still trying to push them and encourage them to be their best. And I love the fact that you added the live stream. Because like me and Mike and them, like, even though we've not been there in the last few years, I got to go last year and watch Mary, but other than that, I hadn't been there in a few years, but I've always watched it every year. I tune in and watch it. I'd be out here at the pool and I'd have it on at the pool, like watching every lap.
Text each other. You see who just dropped? You're like, for 2 days, you're watching YouTube.
We're texting Matt, like, what are you doing? Keep going. So, you all have put so much work into this compared to where it was when you first started it to where it's at now. And I think this year you've been building, right, Mr. Jon? Like you pulled out your carpenter skills. You want to share with us what all you've built so far?
So we have a pavilion. We have an arena. So we used to have portable carports, temporary carports for our crew, not crew area, our runners area next to the corral to put your chair and your cooler in, and like real structure there. We don't have a pavilion. We're not in a park, so we built one that's permanent now. So there's a 60 by 20 awning for runners to sit underneath and get from the sun. It's cooler because the shade's up higher. You get a breeze under it. So we hope it's a little bit better for the couple minutes you're there in your interlupal period.
60 feet, man, you put some work into that.
He did.
Yep. Yeah, it was a big project.
He did. We had a friend come out and help dig holes, and a friend come out and help put bolts in. But aside from that, it's all Juan the Carpenter over
I
here.
can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you all have done so much, though, like truly. And I will say one of my favorite things about that race, still to this day, was after the race, sitting in sorrow in my chair, and then looking at those pictures from Misty.
Yeah.
Misty did a fantastic job that first couple of years of capturing the emotion that just stayed with you after the race for a little while. And it was really just interesting to see, because I had never seen myself defeated like that. Like you're pulling these pictures up and you're like, man, what the hell happened to me? Like, and it's, and me and Mike were both, you just look at your pictures and you're like, man, that was really rough. Like, and I think that's what makes it so cool, though, is like the very first thought in my head after that was like, shit, I can do better.
Yeah. Going into it, you think, I can do, I've run this race, so-and-so. You go in there and you're like, I just got humbled real quick. And in a good way, you leave out of there like, okay, there's room for growth for sure. So love it.
See, we've come full circle, Jon. We're back to, we got humbled, find the joy, figure out, like that's what's really cool. It's just like what you were talking about at the very beginning. Like, things don't always go good and we're really hard on ourselves, but it's one of those that you go back to try to see if you can be better for yourself. And even, that second year I wasn't. And I was really mad at myself then, because like, I wished I would have really pushed myself the first year instead of just like stopping. And, that's one of the things, like we're always just like so hard on ourselves no matter what. And sometimes putting that stress on ourselves just makes the race not fun, period. And I've tried to like not do that anymore. Like Saturday, whatever the day gives me. That's my saying now, is like, whatever the day gives me, I'll take it. Like, I'll do my best, but no expectations. Mary asked me the other day, she's like, what's your goal? So I don't have one. She's like, really? I was like, I do not. I don't want a number in my head. I don't want, whatever the day gives me.
Run a mile every 20 minutes.
Yep. That's the job. That's the job. Just like when you all with me at Ode to Laz, that was the job. Run a loop.
That's all you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So we'll see. So we'll turn it over to Mike real quick for questions, and I'll double check. My phone's going off. You might have a couple more, but I want to ask you the question that we ask everybody on this podcast, and you both can answer it separately if you want, which we'll start. Jon, we'll just keep it the same order. We'll start with you first, but why? And I think this one's going to be I think you've already talked a little bit about this at the very beginning, Jon, but why do you run? Like, if you don't enjoy it, why do you continue to do it?
What's healthy? I don't know that running really far is super healthy, but it's growth, and it's the best reflection I have found to grow and to show the reflection of your inward self and improve the things in life that need improvement. So it shows me where weaknesses are. It allows me to grow as an individual so that I'm better for those around me. And it's fun. I want to run 100 miles. Like, there is part of it that is fun. I want to run 100 miles. I'm in love with that distance. And I want to be able to do it. And I want to be able to do it well and repeatedly.
You actually spun that in a way I wasn't expecting, so I like that.
Huh.
I love it. That was a really good answer. Becca, you're carrying your shoes, walking down the road barefoot. You're crying. Why? Why put yourself through that? Why do you run? And why continue to sign up for a race that is going to do that to you? Like, why do you do it?
Thing about Cruel Jewel, every year when I'm out there, I say, I'm not coming back next year. I'm not putting myself through this, because it's
such lies.
I know. Because I always grow so much and realize where I can improve, not only as a person, but in running and other stuff. It's always a unique challenge. But for me, running, I just love being in the woods and being able to move my body some people know, some people don't, but my dad has Parkinson's, and on top of diabetes and back issues and all sorts of stuff, and to watch someone who you love so dearly lose the ability to do basic things every day, and to feel helpless, like it's very sobering to know that like one day your body's not going to do what you want it to do. So I very much live in, I'm going to do all the things I want to do, trained, undertrained, no matter what, I'm going to give myself the opportunity to experience everything that my body will allow me to, because there is going to come a day, whether it comes unexpectedly or a long, long time from now, where I'm not going to be able to. And
there's a lot of freedom in being able to run. And there's a lot of freedom in running that is really beautiful. And even if it's not fun at the moment, like the understanding of what it gives you and the freedom that comes with being able to do it is very gravitating.
Yeah. So I'm going to do it every chance I get. Everything I want to do, I'm going to do it, because one day I won't be able to.
Absolutely. Well said. I mean, we do not know how much time we have. Could be tomorrow, could be a month, could be 5 years from now, but run the races, take the vacation, go on the trip, do the things that are important to you, because one day you can't, and it's going to be too late.
Yeah.
Well said. All right, John, I'm about to ask John another question. Mike, let's turn it over to you, sir.
All right, we have some questions here. Question 1, I'm traveling this weekend to this race. Can I bring my dog? I'm just kidding. No dogs if you're listening to this. No.
Becca is making a post right now.
Okay. And I heard this on your podcast and everything. A mid-state race idea. Do a fall race backwards, ? Mid-state rewind. So I know you all said something about possibly you want everybody to experience this. Have you given any other course ideas to this at all?
Well, we host Tennessee Mile, which is the same course in December. We do that timed format, so you can run as many loops as you want to in 3, 6, 12, 8, 24, and 40 hours. So that's kind of the caveat to that. Like, yeah, we do want people to experience the course. We want as many people to come out as we can. We can host more people in December than we can in June. So there's that avenue. I've been kicking around doing something special for year 10, inviting a group of people back, but we don't have a solid, we're going to host 2 mid-state mile races yet.
Okay. Fair enough. This one, predictions for how far this one will go? I mean, you guys got access to all the entrants. You got any? I mean, I know it's a tough one, but.
Becca Jones.
Yeah, I think we definitely have the potential in the field, and especially looking at the weather, because weather, it plays a big factor. Last year's triple digits on day 2 and just about triple digits on Saturday really, really impacted things. So I think we have the potential to go 40 plus hours. I think there's enough in there that can get it over that like 24, 30 hour hump and push it, get a good group going, working towards it. But we'll see.
We'll see.
See if they want it.
I mean, that I will say that's one hell of a course record on that course, like the 133 miles that Eric's got.
Yeah.
I mean, how many hours is that? I'm sitting here trying to do my math. That's 40.
It's 42, I think.
Something like that.
That's
I think I had to like go back and like look, because I was so by the end of it.
It's a long time.
Yeah. Especially with that elevation.
Yeah.
Well, my question is that I had, and this may tip into your 10, and you don't have to throw any names out there. Do you have a wish list of some individuals that you just, I mean, like, hey, we don't have no contact with these people, but I would love to get this set of individuals out there and get them against some of these guys out here, Olympians, things like that. Do you have a wish list? Kind of you kick around names in your head, I mean?
I mean, I've got a couple. I'd love to see John Kelly out there.
Oh yeah, that'd be good.
Obviously, Courtney. Courtney is aware of us. We've talked about it.
Yeah, I talked to Courtney about it last year in Leadville. Harvey Lewis, Harvey has come to run our December race, the Tennessee Mile. So it'd be fun to see see him out there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mid-state. You know, I think my idea for year 10 is to bring back the 1s and 2s, the winners and the people that have the assist, with maybe a few special invites sprinkled in, and do, 25, 30 person field on another.
Definitely cool. Keep kicking that idea around. That's definitely neat for sure. We hit on this just a little bit, about when you saw the race change, and you said, earlier, did you ever think what it would be, what it is? But now looking back, a backyard race on Becca's parents' property that is now a full documentary and sells out within days. What was that feeling like? I mean, is it still a rush?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, you just never know. I mean, I don't, you know what the race did last year. People were eager to sign up for it last year and the year before and the year before. But when Ultra Sign Up goes live noon, January 1st, I don't know. Are people going to sign up for it again this year? Is this still a thing? Are people still invested in it? Are they still excited? Are we going to have to wait and try to fill spots? And
you always wonder, does it keep gaining steam? Does it lose it? I mean, and if it does lose it, is it something you did? There's always a lot of nerves around that. And still also, I can't believe it. I still can't believe it. And the night before it starts, after everyone leaves, after our pre-race stuff, I always walk through the corral and up through the field. And I thank God. And 2, I just take in, because it is the most peaceful it will be for the rest of the weekend. And it will never be as full and peaceful as it is in that moment. It's something very, very special. So when that registration opens, I look forward to that and just hope that it's.
Yeah. I think when the drive up Saturday morning and seeing cars parked in the field, and the sun rising, and the fog that's lifting away is when it really comes together. Saturday morning, getting to the race and seeing people set up and seeing it full, because most of the year it's kind of like an undecorated Christmas tree. If you come out there any other time, it's very unassuming. It's just the backyard. I mean, there's junk in the corner, and there's old cars, and we're just hanging out, and there's weeds and mud, and now there's a structure there, so it's a little different. But most of the time, it's just so plain and so empty and so normal, because we're out there so much, and it's just boring. And people come out to run, whether they're in town or, we get messages, hey, I'd like to come check it out. And they come out, and they're for a minute, they're just like, really?
Yeah. They're like, so this is where it takes place?
This is it?
We're like, y'all.
Like, yep, this is just the backyard. Like, it's not, there aren't 200 people here right now. There aren't crew setups,
But it's real. I mean, when I get there, when I have been there, etc., when you guys don't change, you don't get a different Becca and Jon on race day. You don't. This is it. You are just as legit now, or just anywhere. You guys have come down here to our race, and it's still so much fun. And what you get is just, we're not decorating this. We're not rolling out the red carpet. This is a race of just seeing what you bring and what you got.
Yeah. But those moments, Saturday morning is Friday night, Saturday morning especially, is when that moment, it's about to start, and people are going to come out here and they're going to run this loop until they can't. That's a really, really special feeling that I don't take for granted.
Yeah, it really doesn't feel real. I mean, when you walk through the same place where you grew up and had your playhouse and your animals and your things, and then now you see what it's turned into, and to think that you get to share your childhood home with the 200 people, and then plus everyone on the live stream, it's a wild feeling, and still a lot of belief.
Wow. Okay. I've got one more on here, then I'll give it back to Compton. We talked about the running in the sandals. That was taken care of. Ask them about their training methods to make it through longer ultras, i.e. fast hiking, rucking, in addition to running. You guys, Becca, you coach. Do you have your own little thing? Do you chime in on each other, or you just kind of like, hey, this is what works for me? And what's some of your all's training habits?
Well, I mean, we very much incorporate and program, because Jon is also coaching now as well. We incorporate practicing walking fast, like fast walking and rucking.
Yep.
You're going to do that in a race. You need to be able to do it efficiently, and you're using a different muscle set. So you need to also strengthen that. If a runner, an ultra runner, and especially a trail runner can hike a 14 or 15 minute mile, that is a secret weapon, especially late in a race where people are hiking 20, 22, 25 minute miles. If you have gotten comfortable being able to walk or hike that fast, I mean, man, you're a killer.
Yeah, walking practice is definitely our staple in training and kind of the secret weapon.
Most runners, if you were to look at a 100-mile race, like just for, let's say, average runners on a relatively moderate to hilly course, as most trails are, like, yeah.
Even a flat course, you're going to walk 40 miles of a flat course.
Yeah, that's, I mean, if you were to look at, yes, definitely. But if you're looking at a race that is, let's say, 10 to 15,000 feet of elevation gain, you're going to be hiking a ton. Like, you're probably going to hike 65, 70 miles total. I mean, just overall between walk breaks, uphills, and everything else. I mean, if you can't do that efficiently, then you just can't run it. You can't run all that. There's no way.
And it's a different muscle set, and it feels different, and you've got to train it and incorporate it.
So we do understand the physiological and what you have to do to make those adaptations. But if you're going to do this longer stuff, you actually have to look at what you're realistically going to do and build a strong, durable body that is capable of doing those things that you're going to be doing in that race. I mean, to be able to keep moving at mile 80, because most people aren't going to be running. Like, you may have like a good, like, oh, I can, but then you look at your watch and
you're going to run a bit.
All right. Well, that's all the questions I have from everybody.
All right. So do you all have any questions for us?
Yes, I have one just nagging question here, Mr. Compton. Do you think PRing a 50-miler is a great preparation to run mid-state? Something you should...
Well, I didn't PR.
Oh, okay. No, never mind then.
It should be good for Saturday.
No, it was not a good idea, and it was not well thought out, and it was not well planned, but that is David and ADHD. I had signed up for mid-state. You know, I got inspired last year watching Mary and everybody, and I hadn't done this race in years, and I was like, I want to do it. I want to do it. So I let Mary decide if she wanted to do it, and I said, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to do it. And she wanted to do Cruel Jewel. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do mid-state. And then a couple of weeks later, Jason Green released a Appalachian Trail package that basically all three of his races were basically the price of one.
Well, you can't afford not to.
And I was going to run Yeti 100 regardless because I didn't get to run it last year. So he gave us first choice because of Hurricane Helena. So I literally signed up for all of these races. And at the time, I had no idea that damn Yeti was a week before mid-state. So I just sign up and I go on with my life. And then as I'm looking, Mary's like, hey, do you know those races are a week apart? And I'm like, I did not.
News to me.
I did not. She's like, okay. So here we are. It was terrible planning, but I will say my whole week is based on focused on recovery. But it, like you said, I ran 50 miles Saturday and, did it in 6 hours and something in terrible terrain as far as like the mud and stuff. So like my hamstrings and stuff have been sore. So I've got a massage. I've already been to the chiropractor. I'm going back to chiropractor on Thursday. So, I'm doing everything I can on my side, but it's still going to be interesting. I'll see what the day gives me, and whatever it is, that's where we'll be. Valid question, John.
It sounds like you saved your quads for mid-state is what I'm hearing.
My quads are great. Quads are great.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, because remember, there was no downhill at Yeti this year. That entire section is still closed. So it was literally just out and backs to Damascus.
Yeah.
But you're not the only person that has asked me that this week. Anything else?
Yeah, baby.
I don't know. I think I'm sure I did, but
I got one last question. Becca, when you going to come to Cherokee?
Yeah.
I want to be able to do it this year, but I'm running your race, so I will be in Colorado. Well, we will be. Or
Well, that's going to be a cool race. Yeah, totally get that.
Yeah.
Well, we
So,
want you to come do Cherokee. That's like right down your alley.
Yeah.
John's been saying ever since he ran, he's like, "You love this course." He's like, "I swear to God, you love this course. This course is so you."
It's a great course. I love it. It's fantastic. Wonderful race.
Yeah. So next year, it's definitely on the
Put
list.
it on the list.
I love it. Awesome. John, or Mike, any last questions?
I got nothing. I feel good. This was a great conversation. And that's what it felt like. I've not been on a podcast in a while and everything, and this was just flowed so natural with you guys. You were so legit and real.
Yeah, it's like a family reunion too, because we haven't seen you guys in a while, and I'm really excited. So Mike is coming to Mid-State, by the way. He's going to come hang out for a while.
Yes, I have to. I will be there Saturday. I'm going to work and then drive over there and see if I can find somebody to cover security for me at church on Sunday, because it's my Sunday. If not, I'll get up and drive back home that morning. But no big deal. But I'll see y'all Saturday, and use me however you need to. But I'll be there. It's a couple hour drive.
Looking forward to it.
Put him over there commentating. He'll do good.
Yeah.
Well, we love you guys. We're excited to see you this weekend, and thanks for having us on.
Yes, thank you.
This has been awesome.
It's been good.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much. Truly fun, and absolutely just love you guys. Though y'all are great race directors, you're great people, and you're great runners, and continue to inspire people doing what you do, and Jon, continue your posts, because I love reading them. That's one thing I will say. Regardless of how you feel in the moment for your runs or, your races and your 100-mile attempts, you always have something valuable and a great perspective to share with people. And I feel like that's your superpower. Like, that's what you do a really good job of that. So if the races bring that out in you, then it's worth it, period. Like, remember that, because so many people read that post.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. It's just what's going on. It's my process and growing, and this is the things I'm going through and sharing it with other people, because people out there are going through it too. I mean, there's people out there that are hurting. So.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. And Becca, I can't wait to see which state you decide to run across next year.
No, I think
she was supposed to run across Tennessee, south to north last fall, and we didn't do that.
Yeah,
so we'll probably do that next year.
Yeah, maybe we'll do it this year. Who knows?
No, yeah.
maybe we'll make a day out of it. I think that's only like 120 miles.
Yeah, no big deal.
Did you send that in as an FKT, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I was not going to, but I did. Yes.
Oh, you definitely should. Jeez. Sure. You went for 14 days out there. I think that deserves an FKT.
Yeah, it was at the encouragement of everyone who had helped. I did, but that was never my intention. I did it to raise money and to impact people, and it was never to set anything like that. But it is pretty cool that several people have tried, and I am the only one that has completed it. But mentally, that was not a good place to be when you're like, this. Greg is so here, and you're like, what am I doing? There was a lot of stuff. There was a guy that reached out actually last year that was like, I'm thinking about doing it. I love your input. I was like, if you want to die and do something else, absolutely. Like, if you love your life and living and walking around on your own two legs, don't do it.
Well, kudos. Pretty impressive. And the Cruel Jewel stuff is awesome too. So it just shows how tough you are.
Oh,
guys, thank you all so much for your time. Can't wait to see you all this Saturday. We'll have the podcast shared this week. We'll tag you in it. And that way all of the mid-state junkies that are wanting to get their fix can listen to it earlier before they come suffer on Saturday. So
all right.
Thank you guys.
Thank you all. Appreciate your all's conversation. Love you guys. Y'all take care.
Love you.